At 52 years old, Beverly packed a single bag and sat down on the edge of her bed at 2 in the morning. Not to leave. She wasn't leaving anywhere. She just needed to know she still could. If you've ever sat alone in a quiet house and felt like you had completely disappeared from your own life, stay with me. Because what Beverly did over the next 8 months, she told nobody. Not her daughter, not her sister, not the women at her church. Nobody. And when the truth finally came out, the people closest to her didn't understand it at first. Some of them got angry. One of them cried. But something had already changed, and it could never go back. I'm going to tell you exactly what she did. But first, I need you to understand what she was carrying. Have you ever given so much of yourself for so long that you forgot there was a yourself to give from? Have you ever looked in the mirror and not recognized the woman looking back? Not because of age, but because of exhaustion. Have you ever been so tired of being strong that the word strong started to feel like an insult? If that's you, this story is for you. Sit down. I mean it. Sit all the way down. This one is going to matter. Beverly Simmons cleaned other people's houses for 23 years. She lived in a suburb of Memphis, Tennessee, in a pale yellow house with a screen door that didn't close all the way and a front porch she had been meaning to repaint since 2017. She drove a gray Chevy that had 187,000 miles on it and a crack in the passenger window that she had sealed with clear tape because the quote to fix it was $340 she didn't have. She woke up at 5:15 every morning. She was out the door by 6:30. She cleaned 4 houses a week, sometimes 5, depending on who called her. She mopped floors on her knees. She scrubbed showers that weren't hers. She folded other people's laundry, separated other people's colors from their whites, placed other people's towels in neat stacks on shelves she would never open again. She came home smelling like bleach and lemon pine, changed her clothes, and started on her own house. Her daughter, Kezia, was 27 and going through a divorce. Beverly was helping with the grandkids twice a week. Her sister, Ruthann, called almost every evening with one problem or another. Beverly answered every time. She was the woman everyone called. She was the woman no one asked about. The detail that nobody noticed, not even Beverly herself most of the time, was her right knee. It had been swollen at the cap for almost 3 years. She had wrapped it in an ace bandage every single morning before putting on her uniform, the navy blue polo shirt and the khaki pants she wore to every job, and she had never told a client it hurt. She just kept moving. She figured pain was part of the deal. Her Sanyo, her quiet private dream, was not a trip to Paris. It was not a new car. It was not even a bigger house. Beverly wanted one thing: to take a ceramics class. She had seen a flyer for one at the community center in 2019, $8 a session on Tuesday evenings. She had held that flyer for a long time. She had even circled the phone number. She never called. In the back of her closet, inside an old shoebox from a pair of church heels she no longer wore, Beverly kept a folded piece of paper. On it, in her own handwriting, was a list of things she had always wanted to try. Ceramics was the first item. Below it were 6 other things, written in different pens, added over different years, proof that the wanting had never stopped. The shoebox sat under 2 winter coats. She had not opened it in 4 years. That was the object she thought no one knew existed. The call came on a Tuesday in March. It was Kezia. She needed Beverly to come stay with the kids for 2 weeks because her ex had stopped paying support and she had to pick up extra shifts and could not find childcare. 2 weeks turned into 6. $60 Beverly had budgeted for herself that month, a new pair of work shoes, because her current ones had a hole in the sole she was covering with a folded cardboard insert, went to groceries for Kezia's apartment. Then another $60. Then Beverly's own power bill came in, and she was $48 short. She put it on a card she had not touched in 2 years. Then the knee got worse. She went to an urgent care clinic because she did not have a primary doctor she could get into quickly. The visit cost $120 after her insurance discount. They told her she needed an MRI. The MRI would cost $470 out of pocket. She left without scheduling it. She drove home in the Chevy with the cracked window and sat in the driveway for 11 minutes without going inside. That was when she found the note. Not the shoebox. A different note, a small thing. It had fallen out of the glove compartment when she was looking for her insurance card at the clinic. It was a receipt from a craft store dated almost 5 years ago. She had bought 2 bags of clay. She had never used them. She didn't even remember buying them. She put the receipt in her jacket pocket without thinking about it. Inside the house, she sat at her kitchen table and did the math on a notepad. She owed $913 across 2 cards. She had made $1,120 that month. After gas, groceries, her phone bill, and helping Kezia, she had $67 left. She looked at that number for a long time. Then she got up, went to the kitchen sink, ran cold water over her wrists because that was something her mother used to do when things felt like too much, and she stood there until she felt her breathing even out. She did not cry. She had run out of that too. The pharmacy line was long that Thursday afternoon. Beverly had come to pick up a prescription for her knee inflammation, $43 with insurance, and the system was down. 12 people were waiting. Nobody was happy about it. Beverly found a spot on a bench near the blood pressure machine and sat down. The woman already sitting there looked to be in her late 70s. Small, a church hat, powder blue, tilted slightly to the left, like it had given up trying to sit straight and decided to be interesting instead. Her hands were folded in her lap over a canvas bag that said Myrtle Beach on it in cracked iron-on letters. Beverly nodded. The woman nodded back. They sat in silence for a while. The kind of silence that isn't uncomfortable. The kind that means 2 people have both been on their feet too long to spend energy pretending. Then the older woman said, without looking up, "You're carrying something." Beverly looked at her. "Ma'am?" The woman turned her head slowly. Her eyes were the color of creek water, dark and still and very calm. "It's not rude," she said. "I'm not trying to get in your business. I've just been alive long enough to see it in a person, the way they sit. You're not resting. You're just pausing." Beverly didn't answer. She looked at the floor. The woman let the silence be. She didn't fill it. She just waited. After a moment she said, "I almost died at 54. Doctor gave me 6 months. I had 2 more after that." She said it the same way you'd say the weather. "You know what I regretted? Nothing I'd done wrong, just everything I kept putting off for everyone else." She looked back toward the pharmacy counter. "A buried seed," she said quietly. "Don't feed nobody, not even the ground it's in." Beverly felt something move in her chest, something old, something she had not felt move in years. The woman's prescription was called. She stood up, slowly, with the kind of dignity that takes decades to build. She picked up her Myrtle Beach bag. She did not look back. Beverly sat there for a long time after she was gone. "A buried seed don't feed nobody." She repeated it to herself on the drive home. She said it out loud, alone in the car with the cracked window and the tape, and it felt like something she had known her whole life, but had never been given the right words for. Now I need to tell you what Beverly started to understand in the weeks after that pharmacy bench, because this is the part I promised you at the beginning. This is what she did quietly for 8 months that nobody knew about. And here is the first truth she had to face before any of it could happen. Ensinamento, emergindo da narrativa. Beverly went home that Thursday and found the receipt in her jacket pocket, the clay receipt from 5 years ago. She held it at the kitchen table and she thought about the shoebox in the closet. She hadn't opened it in so long she was half afraid. The paper had yellowed and the ink had faded, that even her own handwriting had given up on her. She opened the closet. She moved the coats. She lifted the box. The paper was fine, the handwriting was fine, ceramics was still the first thing on the list. What Beverly understood that night was that she had been waiting for permission, not from Kezia, not from Ruthann, from herself. She had been waiting until everything was settled, until the bills were down, until her knee was better, until the grandkids were older, until some invisible committee of problems gave her a signed letter saying she had done enough and could now begin. No such letter was coming. She had known that for years. She had just kept checking the mailbox. The first thing she did was call the community center. The ceramics class still existed. It was now $10 a session, not $8. She had $67. She signed up for 5 sessions. She told nobody. Ensinamento doa, emergindo da narrativa. The second truth was harder. Beverly had built her entire identity around being available. If she said no to Ruthann, she felt guilty for 3 days. If she didn't answer Kezia's call, she imagined disasters. She had trained everyone around her to believe she had no needs by genuinely pretending for so long that she didn't. The first Tuesday she went to ceramics class, Ruthann called at 6:45 in the evening. Beverly was sitting at a table with her hands in wet clay for the first time in her life. She felt the phone buzzing in her bag. She looked at it. She put it back. She stayed. Ruthann called again at 7. Then, once more at 7:30. Beverly did not answer. When class ended at 8:30, she called her sister back. "Where were you?" Ruthann asked. "I was doing something," Beverly said. "Doing what?" Beverly paused. "Something for me." There was a silence on the phone. Then Ruthann said, "Well, okay." That was it. That was the great emergency Beverly had been afraid of for 2 decades. Well, okay. She sat in the parking lot of the community center with wet clay, still under her fingernails, and laughed until her eyes watered. Ensinamento tres, emergindo da narrativa. By the 4th month, Beverly's hands were learning something, not perfection. The bowls she made in class were uneven. The first mug she fired collapsed in the kiln, and she held the broken pieces in her hands and felt, of all things, proud. She had made something. She had tried something. It had broken, and she had not broken with it. This was the part nobody tells you about rest. It is not passive. It does not look like sitting still. It looks like your hands in clay at 7 in the evening, when your sister is calling, and your knee is wrapped in a bandage, and your cards have $900 on them. It looks like choosing, on a Tuesday night, to be a person and not just a function. Beverly's knee, after she finally scheduled the MRI on a payment plan of $35 a month, turned out to have a torn meniscus. Not urgent surgery, but a real injury, with a real treatment plan. She had been cleaning houses on a torn meniscus for almost 3 years. She had thought she was just weak. She was not weak. She had been working injured and calling it strength. Ensinamento quattro, emergindo da narrativa, resolução do loop principle. This is what Beverly did in those 8 months that she never told anyone. She went to ceramics every Tuesday. She had the MRI. Darlene was one of Beverly's newer clients, a woman in her mid-40s who worked in medical billing and lived alone in a townhouse near the river. Beverly had been cleaning for her about 4 months. They rarely talked much, mostly just pleasantries. That Saturday, Beverly arrived, and Darlene was still home, sitting at her kitchen table in her robe with a cup of coffee she hadn't touched. She had clearly been crying. She didn't try to hide it. Beverly set down her caddy. She did not ask if everything was okay. She could see it wasn't. She just sat down across from her at the table, uninvited but not unwelcome, the way women do when they know the moment calls for presence rather than permission. Darlene laughed a little, embarrassed. "Sorry, I'm fine." Beverly waited. Darlene started, then stopped, started again. "I feel like I've been doing everything right, and I still feel like I'm disappearing." Beverly was quiet for a long moment. She reached into the pocket of her navy polo. She pulled out a small card, the kind that comes with flower arrangements. On it she had written, in her own handwriting, the phrase that had been living in her chest since that pharmacy bench. She had written it down months ago and kept it there without knowing why. She placed it on the table in front of Darlene. Darlene looked down at it. She read it slowly. "A buried seed don't feed nobody," she read, "not even the ground it's in." She looked up at Beverly. Beverly nodded. "Whatever it is you've been saving for later," she said, "stop waiting for things to be better. They'll just be different, and you'll still be waiting." Darlene picked up the card. She held it. "Is this something you read somewhere?" she asked. "A woman in a pharmacy line told me," Beverly said. "About 2 years ago, she had a powder blue church hat and a bag from Myrtle Beach, and she didn't even know my name." Darlene looked at the card again. Then Beverly did something she had not planned. She went to her cleaning caddy, moved the bottles aside, and from the bottom she lifted out something wrapped in a paper bag. She had been carrying it for 3 weeks, not sure what she was going to do with it. Inside the bag was a small ceramic bowl, uneven on one side, a little rough at the rim, the color of river clay after rain. She set it on the table next to the card. "I made that," she said simply. Darlene looked at it like it was something rare. "I made it in a class I signed up for when I had $67 to my name and a $900 debt and a torn knee, and nobody knew I was going." Beverly folded the paper bag. "I made it because I'd been waiting to matter to myself for 52 years, and I got tired of waiting." The receipt from the craft store, the one that had fallen from the glove compartment that day, the one Beverly had put in her pocket without thinking, had been tucked inside the bowl since the morning she wrapped it. She hadn't thought about why. She thought about it now. It was the beginning. That little receipt was the beginning. She had been carrying the beginning in the bowl for 3 weeks without knowing she was about to give it to someone who needed to see that something small can be a beginning. Darlene picked up the bowl and held it in both hands. Beverly did not explain more. She stood up, picked up her caddy, and started working. Some things don't need more words. "I want to ask you something directly. Is there a shoebox in your closet? Not a real one, maybe, but something like it. A list you wrote, a thing you circled, a class you almost called about, a version of yourself you have been putting in a box under the coats because you decided everyone else came first. How long has that box been under there?" Beverly didn't change her whole life in 8 months. She paid down $60 a month on a card. She went to a $10 class on Tuesday nights. She had a knee treated that she had been ignoring for 3 years. She made 17 pieces of pottery, some of which broke, and she put one crooked bowl on her windowsill where she could see it every morning. That was the whole thing. But something that was buried started breathing again. And a woman in Germantown, sitting at her kitchen table in her robe on a Saturday morning, is now holding the proof that someone just like her decided she was worth planting. What is the one thing you have been putting off for yourself? Not for someday, not for when things calm down, for right now, for this week, for this Tuesday. Come on, comment below, type day 1, and tell me what you're going to do today just for you. One thing, even if it costs nothing, even if nobody knows you did it. I want to read every single one. And if you have a sister, a friend, a woman in your life who is running on empty and doesn't even know it anymore, share this with her. Send it with no message. She'll know why. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for being here.